Kelvin, Josiah, I'm so glad to welcome you to Finding Common Ground.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks,
Yay.
man. This is so fun. Okay.
Yeah, so the Ordinary Dad, you are less than 2 years old as a group. You had an original founder called Cliff who started it, but he's not in Singapore anymore. Give us a summarized story of what is the Ordinary Dad about and how did it start? And what's your role in it?
Right. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we can say that it started about 3 years ago in 2021. At that time, I had been a stay-home father for about 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And it was a very different experience of parenting.
Yeah.
And I was feeling quite alone most of the time because there aren't really that many stay-home fathers then, or certainly not easy to find them. And so for me, in a desperate attempt to try to reach out, right, I wrote a commentary in Today that was published in line with Father's Day in 2021. And shortly after the commentary, where I shared very vulnerably about the struggles being a stay-home father, a week later, someone wrote a response commentary to mine.
Oh.
And it was this lady by the name of Josiah, and she is married to a stay-home father, whose name is Cliff. And Cliff and I, through Josiah, we got connected. And then from July of 2021 onwards, we started meeting every month to commiserate about this stay-home father journey that we share. And also, 2 years into that monthly meeting and journeying together, we started to discuss about there's got to be other stay-home fathers in the community, but where are they?
Yeah.
And how are they wrestling with the challenge, given the fact that both Cliff and I agree that it's a very lonely journey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where do we find them? So I think Cliff had a little bit more presence in social media.
Yeah.
And through Waijia's urging as well as my cajoling,
Yeah.
Cliff said, okay, he will reach out via his social media and see who would be interested just to meet up.
Yeah.
And so the Ordinary Dad really began formally in March of 2023, which was when we had a meeting where there was Cliff, myself, and 4 other fathers. So there was 6 of us for that inaugural session.
Wow.
And we were just meeting in some coffee shop somewhere, and we're just having a little coffee and chit-chat.
Yeah.
And then that number doubled in 3 months to 12 in June. And June was also the first time that we met at the common ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then lo and behold, by September of 2024, we had close to or just exceeding 80 members.
Wow.
So it was a trajectory that we never expected to happen. And so if you talk about this as the very definition of ground up, then I suppose we would be a ground up movement. So that's in a nutshell, that's the history of how the Ordinary Dad began. Because Cliff and I believe that the journey is hard to walk alone, and we needed to have people around us to walk together with. And I think many who resonated with that and who were also stay-home fathers or in transition signed up. And that's how it began.
I'm going to segue to Josiah in a while, but I want to slow us down here so that the audience can catch that remarkable foundation, right? That it was 2 years of monthly meetups.
Yes.
Between you and Cliff.
Yeah, so between 2021 and up until that very first expanded meeting of 6 people in 2023, there was just Cliff and me.
Yeah.
So Kelvin's been very nice, by the way.
Oh, really?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because we always say that he's a co-founder.
Yeah.
But he never wants to accept that term. Kelvin was the one who also nudged him to say that, hey, we should start something.
Yeah.
He wanted to continue and start something for the Stay Home Dad group.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think both of them saw that need, which Kelvin has mentioned, for dads together, stay home dads in particular.
Yeah.
Because this was a journey that was unique in some sense, especially in our society and context.
Yeah. I find it compelling because it was 2 years of investment in a relationship with each other. You're not thinking of I want to start a group or anything yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
like what do you believe was sown from the start? Because it started like that. It was just a pair, right? It was just a pair of dads committed to meeting up every month, right?
Yep.
Without calling it a name or a label. What do you believe was sown into that foundation?
I think when we first started meeting, it was just the thrill or the joy of knowing that there is someone who is on this path of being a stay-home father, the main caregiver in the family. And it's not a mother, it's a father. And just that connection kept us meeting every month.
Yeah.
Cliff has 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And no sons. I have 2 sons and no daughters. So we could be quite different in the sense of our experiences. And of course, the other major difference was that Cliff had 2 daughters who were still in preschool.
Yeah.
Whereas mine were much further along into primary school, and my eldest, in fact, had just started secondary school that year. And so I was like, what is keeping us together? That's a good question. I think it's this shared idea that despite these differences I mentioned, we are united in the sense that we prioritize parenting, and the lifestyle we chose speaks very clearly that this is what we prioritize, what we put on our calendars as what we believe should be how we lived our days. Because there were days where we felt we were not maybe understood, even by well-meaning friends, ex-colleagues, or family members. There was now someone whom you can just say a couple of words or not even at all, and that guy gets it. And there's something so simple and yet so powerful in just that connection, that you're seen, you're not ignored. Which some society has like, you're a stay-home father, what's that? But you're not ignored, you're valued. And I think that alone kept us coming back to meet each other. It gives us the impetus to soldier on days where you just feel like throwing in the towel.
I'm really interested in like the DNA of what allows a movement to happen, right? And we have this like 2 dads who for some reason feel compelled to move towards each other, right? And it's quite regular, like every month for 2 years, right? Were you at any point like, okay, enough of this, like I need a break from you? Like, was there any moment where you felt like I need to move away from you for a while?
I think that in the 2 years that Cliff and I met, right, clearly as we got to know each other, we also see that we're actually quite different in terms of our lived experiences. What Cliff has gone through and what his background is versus mine are very different. Even age-wise, I'm at least a decade older. And so it's interesting that those differences, they do show up sometimes the way we view things. And Cliff and I have openly talked about some of the things we don't agree on. But we never really say, okay, let's take a break and then, I think you're on a totally different path here. We agree on most occasions like that to disagree. I mean, clearly, parenting daughters versus sons are 2 different kinds of experiences. And what you experience doesn't negate mine, nor vice versa. And once we accept that, right, there's a lot of space we can play around.
You didn't have to go out and let's find another bunch of guys, right? It could have been, we have a really great friendship going. Let's keep this as a really good, solid friendship. And that would have been perfectly fine, right? But there's something in both of you that felt moved to let's put something out there. Let's try and bring more guys in, right? Like if you had to boil it down to maybe 1 or 2 truths or values or principles, whatever it is, right? When you look back now, like why on earth would we like make our life a little bit more complicated for ourselves? We have a great friendship. We're both being helped in this friendship. Like why would we need to open up a club? And I would love to hear from Josiah's like point of view. When did you decide to like join in, and also like what compelled you to move towards this group?
Cliff and I recognized that it was at many points in our journey very challenging to be walking that alone.
Yeah.
And there were moments where we felt we ask ourselves so many questions like, was this the right thing to do? And when we get misunderstood by society, which is very often, I think both Cliff and I can tell stories for the whole day about the kind of experiences we have. It must be very hard for others if they didn't have what Cliff and I had. And if we could help someone else the way that both of us were helped through our connections, right? We should. It was just that simple realization that nobody should ever have to go through anything, and this in particular, by themselves, because it's not easy. And especially with men, and men famously across any culture society, men are always the ones that are least likely to open up about weaknesses or sharing about things that they struggle, because it's just not manly to talk about these things.
Yeah.
All the more we want to now say, if we have experienced the joy of this connection, let's, to borrow a term, evangelize about it. Just spread that and say, it's a good idea and we should share because we've experienced the fruit of it. Maybe somebody else wants it but doesn't know what this is. We can show you what it is and you can decide if you want to be a part of it. Let's just put it out there and see what happens, because if it's a good idea, it should be shared, because then it multiplies. And we ourselves in turn would probably grow even more, strengthen, better ready for what other challenges lie ahead. And there are other challenges ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I actually came in at a point in time where I was already deciding to be a stay-home dad. So I think for them, they were already stay-home dads for a while. But for me, I was discovering how it would be like if I were to quit my job and be present for my family. And so when I was trying to explore the arena, so to speak, I contacted Cliff. And I was like, hey, Cliff, I've read that you're a stay-home dad. And I've known Cliff for some time because we've had some past history working together.
Yeah.
And so we sat over coffee, and then he was telling me that, oh, wow, interesting, because he was about to start something. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the name. So
you're part of the original 6?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I call myself quite blessed, actually, because the moment I said that, you know what, let me just be a stay-home dad, the group was kind of formed.
Yeah.
So the first month, which I was transitioning to be a stay-home dad, was the first month I met these guys. It was nice for me because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And to speak with these men who were more experienced, who have put their family first, was something that I was trying to learn as well. And I didn't even know what that meant. Yeah. And is this the only way? Yeah. And I realized, of course, we can speak to that later on. This is not the only way, by the way, to put your family first by being a stay-home dad. But I really saw the value of them creating space for one another. Yeah. To express themselves. Yeah. And it was something that I myself as a man, let's not even talk about parenting or being stay home, didn't feel like I had. I didn't have a lot of friends that I could share my day-to-day experiences. Of course, we had colleagues then, but a lot of it was just very functional talk. Yeah. Yeah. When you want to go really deeper and to find out the root of a lot of different issues that was happening in life. Yeah. It takes a certain kind of dynamic and relationship. Yeah. Which for some reason, since the get-go, when we were just chatting over coffee in that coffee shop, we seem to have lah. Yeah. And so, I came back again and again because I just thought it was a nice way for us to communicate and to be there for one another. Yeah. So very soon, I also realized that, hey, wait a minute, instead of me just, getting, actually, I also can be in a position of giving in that sense, of just listening to that person's problems and like, it's not even about giving each other solutions, Yeah, it's just about, you just have something that's on your heart and you just need an outlet to express it. Yeah. Yeah. And so that became something for us lah. And of course, along the way, I guess over the past few months, we've also noticed, and through reports, the things that we hear anecdotally as well, there are a lot of men who are suffering from loneliness, from mental health issues. And we thought this is kind of like our very, very small little part, to help with the situation as much as we can. Not to solve the issue, but wherever we can contribute.
Every little container of human beings, right? When we go from like, this is me all by myself in my room, and then now I have a buddy, then now I have a container of 2 people, and then now I have a container of 6 people meeting up in Burger King, right? Or chit-chatting about the same thing. And then, now it's 12, then now it's 24, and now it's 80, right? And like, I know you both say that we don't really have a quota, we don't really have a number in our head, right? Could you help us understand what's the difference in just the experience first? Maybe let's start there. Like, what's the difference in me moving from like, this is me and Cliff, my good buddy, and now we have 6. Yeah. And now we have 80. Yeah.
I think it's helping us to recognize or even to affirm that indeed, but now we have clear, definite evidence that there are other men who are also in this space of caring for their children on a more deliberate, intentional basis daily. And at the same time, these fathers are struggling to make sense of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's hard to make sense when you have to do it on your own.
Yeah.
And trying to do it by maybe fulfilling a certain societal script or narrative of how fathers should parent, or trying to copycat their wives or the mother's way of parenting, which is very important, but it's essentially also very different.
Yeah.
And to try to mimic those things may not be the best way to do it. Then how do we carve out an identity for ourselves, and worse, to do that on our own? So when we see our numbers grow from, like you said, first 2 to 6 to 12 and so on, right? We see confirmation that there is both the existence of these fathers and as well a need to have that unspoken question of how do I parent like this answered. And the answer lies in being amongst all these different fathers who share that desire to be a more intentional, more hands-on father than maybe they themselves have experienced when they were growing up. And maybe to qualify to the listeners, right? Because I guess sometimes the term stay-at-home father itself can be very loaded, because people automatically think if there are very little encounters, they will think that, stay-at-home father means you are at home 100% of the time, you don't bring in any paycheck whatsoever, you're in apron doing all the laundry, the cleaning, the diaper change if you have babies, and those kind of caricatures come in. But we have seen in our now 80 plus members, right? There is a gamut of different fathers. You can be a stay-at-home father and working full-time, because there are several fathers in our groups who are working remotely but full-time because they have their own little business online, for example. We have fathers who are between jobs. And there are fathers who are like myself, actually, working part-time, doing little gig works here and there, so to help to supplement household incomes. And so for us, seeing the numbers grow and seeing all the different permutations of fathers, right, we are just expanding our own understanding of this whole arena of parenting. And it's a wonderful eye-opener. It still is, even now.
What would you both say to, let's say, a listener who's like, like if I had a good friendship going with another person, or a good little clique of friends of, let's say, 6, and we had a good thing going, like, the last thing I would want is to, come on in, more people, please, because I might feel like I need to protect the intimacy of our conversations. I want to protect the amount of energy I can spend on people. To usher in 80 people into like a big gathering can feel like a lot, right? To someone out there. So what would you say to that? Like, what's the real, what's the reality, the good and the bad, right? And the beautiful of like when we deliberately open up our social circles to more people out there. Yeah. So it goes beyond like just a friendship. It is a movement already. You have a little movement.
Yeah.
80 people is like, that's quite a lot of people. Yeah.
A lot of the conversations that we've been having now is how do we constantly promote and preserve that safe space, which the dads can be vulnerable with one another. And when you have 80 people, it's sometimes hard to share about, I just had a meltdown with my kid, you know, and then you have 79 others, you know, trying to chip in sometimes, telling you about their own experiences as well, or some of them give you solutions. When actually all you need is to just have a space for you to air. And so I think which is why for us on a monthly basis, we still have our meetups. So of course, when the fathers gather, sometimes there'll be 10 of them who come, sometimes more, sometimes less. They will break up into groups. And that in itself kind of creates the physical space for them to kind of be vulnerable with one another, or if not, just to connect lah. And so when we say 80 members, it's what we have kind of like on our WhatsApp group. But at the same time, I think we're also very intentional about making sure that these 80 kind of create their subgroups as much as possible. Which is why we're very hesitate to call ourselves leaders or, you know, I mean, whatever terms that you want to use, because there's always that ingrained mentality that since there is a leader on top, then, you know, that person will run something, you know, and then the ownership becomes different. We kind of want to encourage ownership of the group amongst the different dads as well. And so one of the other things that we constantly do is to also encourage them to meet up on their own. So whatever that Kelvin and Cliff had at the very start, meeting with each other, forming that friendship, we're encouraging that in the other dads as well. And we have heard actually since that many of the other dads, sometimes even without us knowing, a lot of times it's after the fact, that they would say that, hey, actually we meet up, you know, with this other dad that I met at the common ground. You know, at the common ground the other day, we realized that we have something in common. And then we have decided to just go cycling together or just go for a walk together. Some of them will post some of their meetups within the group chat itself. I think that in itself also encourages other dads to connect on their own. So I think it's kind of like creating that organic way of helping them form their own friendships. Because in the same vein, we are also very conscious that we can't force anyone to connect. It's really about creating opportunities for you guys, you know, to form your own friendships. So to be very honest, yes, there is 80 over, 80 dads. I'm not super close to every one of them. I'm still the closest with maybe a handful whom we started, you know, with the ordinary dad. So, I mean, again, it goes back to we found a nice connection with one another. We just want to see how else other dads whom feel like they have that need as well can create their own unique connections.
Ultimately, communities have to begin from a few people coming together. And when you have that small, intimate group is where people can feel that they have a voice and they have someone who's going to be listening to them. You're right that, obviously with 80 people, that's not going to happen. We're very conscious that we want to replicate what Cliff and I had at the very start, because that has the potential to be more long-lasting and take on a life of its own. And for me, therein lies the power of the community. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where life gets really exchanged. And we live the experience of each other. We slow things down. We have time to hear each other and share openly. And you can't do that in a large setting. You cannot. So yes, our desire is that when we hear about groups organically coming together, that kind of thing has a way of getting people to connect a lot more stronger than if I just say, okay, you must come every month at this place and meet up. That is like some kind of a membership club, but it isn't what we are about. And anytime we are like that, let's shut down, man. Right, Joe? Please.
No, No, I really like what I'm listening to. I am picking out about 4 kind of principles that you guys are operating on about how you've been building or growing your community through these seasons, right? I'm going to read it back to you so that
Please.
you can give me your
Please
response
do.
of like
Yes,
whether
please
that
do.
feels
Gosh.
true, right? First principle I picked out is this idea of like to increase ownership, we've got to decrease leadership in a way, right?
Wow.
And I wanted to hear a little bit more about, it seems like a small detail, but you guys made a choice of how you want to relate to your group and how you choose to title yourself, how you choose to interact with them, right? So could you say more about how intentional you all were? Like because I hear you saying like, oh, you don't want to take credit for being a co-founder. You don't want to like call yourself leader of the group. Explore that out for the listener.
Just to pick on this idea, but it seems like a small detail, but
Yeah.
I've come to learn over the years in this journey that actually life is actually lived precisely in the small moments, in the small details. And to that end, right, when Cliff started this and called it the ordinary dad,
Yeah.
it was very intentional to
Yeah.
remind ourselves that we are not trying to set ourselves apart from every other permutation of parenting out there, whether it's the conventional ones that society is familiar with or something really out of the box. We want to send a very clear message and signal that when we say we are the ordinary dad, we really just want you to see us as that. We just want people to accept that we are choosing to parent this way. And if you can accept that there are differences, then this is just part of the ordinary day-to-day of life. And we're just an ordinary father. We're just an ordinary parent. If you don't even like the term dad, fine. We're just an ordinary parent. We're just ordinary. But we are very much united in that we believe our children deserve the quality and the quantity of time that we're investing in them because it matters for the next generation.
Yeah.
So it's a small detail, but a significant one to say that therefore, because none of us have the formula, okay, air quotes, to best parenting practices, right? Then by the same token, why should there be a leader? Why should there be someone who calls the shots? Because we are not about trying to contrast gain over one another. We're just trying to say that this particular situation, let's try this way, and we are open to it. And anyone who feels enough about it and wants to be heard, we want to make sure that we create a space that you can be heard.
Yeah.
One of our tenets in our Ordinary Dad manifesto, if you ever go to our website, let me now do a plugin for the ordinarydad.org, you will see that in our manifesto, we make it clear that we recognize that even amongst the 80 of us, right, people can come in and go out anytime they wish because we go through seasons. There may come a time where you no longer feel that the ordinary dad is something that I am finding meaning in anymore, which can happen, and that's fine. That's totally fine for us. We're happy to, say a fond farewell, but we're always keeping our doors open. You can come back anytime because you shouldn't feel obligated. The minute you feel that you're obligated to be in this place, the minute it becomes that, it becomes onerous.
Yes.
That's not us. That's not what we represent. We don't want that. Please, make your own decisions, and it's fine. So I think it's intentional in that way, lah.
But I'd like to also maybe add that when you put it that way, like decreasing in leadership, it also does sound like there's a decrease in accountability. But I just want to say that it's not so as well. Because if anything, we've actually found that the dads are more accountable to each other. Yeah, because I mean, there's natural questions, right? Especially in organizational psychology or whatnot. If you don't have a leader, who's accountable when something happens? Right. But I think because of the relationship that's formed, that there's ownership, there's investment in one another, how you look, I'm invested in it.
Yep.
And so I feel accountable as well. And so I'm helping you along this journey just as how you are helping me along this journey as well. And I think that's the dynamic that has been formed, not intentionally, I think. It's something that we are discovering along the way as well.
Very organic.
If you had to dub this style, right, of leadership, right?
This is your chance to coin a term, Kelvin.
Yeah. Look, if you take a stab at like describing what this form of ownership or leadership of a group is like, what would you call it? Yeah. If you can't think of a title, then what would be the best metaphor you would use for it?
I don't know. I just think of symbiotic relationships in nature. I don't know if there's a term for it, but you know how like you have two very different animals, but just invested in one another, accountable to one another in a sense of like, I mean, for them it's survival, you know.
Right.
Yeah, like we have a social contract, you know, where you don't even have to like say it out loud.
Yeah.
You are helping me pick off leeches off my body, for example. Sorry, I know it's very graphic, but
Yes,
but, you know, but I'm providing, you know, I'm helping you with certain needs that you have in your life, lah. Yeah, but it just comes so naturally for some reason. Yeah,
I think it's also, it just boils down to relationships and truly what a genuine, authentic community should probably look like.
Yeah.
Where we don't necessarily have assigned leadership roles, but because you value this community, it's almost like an ecosystem that you're part of now, you naturally want to do what you can when you see anything that arises. You just ultimately step in without being asked. To me, that's the pinnacle of a society that really works for one another. And it's not tied to a key performance indicator, you know, or some objective that we set off. Of course, like Joe said earlier, yes, we do have certain guidelines, but that's just necessary to kind of keep a little bit of structure, which is still necessary.
Organize ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, to look like we're not some disorganized, disparate, crazy people, but we do have some scaffolding.
Yeah.
But within that, right, it's really everybody just moving like amoebas, you know, very organic. And we, in this moment, this person has maybe some skill sets that contributes better for this situation, then let that person take a lead.
Yeah.
And then when that's done, then we just move on to somebody else. And we do that, we support each other. Joe is right. I also don't really know all the 80 fathers. I try, but that's hard. But having said that, right, I recognize that that's how everyone chooses their place in the community. But as long as you feel that you're part of it and you know that we have given everyone the green light to take ownership at anything, I think that frees up people to be more themselves and who they are.
Yeah.
And I appreciate seeing that.
Yeah.
I mean, in the first place, that's why we got together, right? We didn't fit into society's certain expectations and molds as fathers and men. So do we now want to do that to ourselves as well, adding an extra layer of expectations? I don't think that would work, and we would never survive.
Actually, back to the question that you mentioned earlier, how it's like having just like 6 and then now we have 80, right?
Yeah.
I almost feel like previously, when it's just a small handful of us, it's almost like there's a certain limitation. It's just us, right? But now that we have 80, it's almost like for the first time we have an abundance of different personalities, of qualities, of skill sets, of helping one another. And so I think we've kind of like also transitioned and shifted the community from, I was reading this previously, asset-backed community or something like that. Yeah, where we are now empowering the dads to use their skill sets, whoever they are, to provide a contribution to the community. And as a result of that, I think there's a certain shared identity as well.
Yeah. I think that's Peter Block's part of community. Yes, we should talk about this idea of assets. When we come into and be part of community, every one of us brings some kind of a skill or talent or an inclination that may not exist before. But when that comes in and this person feels comfortable and accepted enough for him to share that asset, right? The community as a whole benefits.
Yeah.
And we grow from there because then it's not just on one person. Even though Cliff is a founder, but Cliff has since physically moved out of Singapore and isn't there. Yet the community doesn't rise or fall because of whether he's here or not. That already tells you that we're not your typical kind of organization.
Yes.
In a way that people assume it to be. And that's because each of us recognize that we have different strengths, and depending on the season we're in, that strength can be harnessed to the benefit of everyone.
Yeah.
Provided everyone feels ready and feels a sense of belonging, and they feel that they're seen, they're heard, they're accepted, that's where they feel most comfortable to share their assets or their skill sets or their knowledge or their talent or their superpower.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you see a community at that peak, right? Wow, that is the utopia of communities, isn't it? Yeah.
Everything that we've been talking about so far, I think resonate with the other principles I've been picking up, right? And I just added a fifth because of what you just said. I mean, okay, so that first was that idea of like we're distributing the ownership. You know, we're not like taking on any like weird power hungry titles, you know, that whatever we want to call that, right? But there's a certain
Chief
humility and certain like ordinary ownership. Yeah, about that, right? I think the second, third, fourth, fifth are kind of similar. Like the second principle that I heard is like we create opportunities for people to form friendships, and we're letting everyone choose their place in the community, right? There's no forced relationships. It's just like friendships, right? People are choosing. The third thing that I heard is like we focus on more relational than functional relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I can see how, like, you know, if you call yourself a founder, let's say, it's more of a functional relationship than let's say a relational title, right?
You're right.
Yeah, so I can hear that. The fourth was like you have that big gathering, but we also do multiple small group gatherings.
Yes.
Where it is small enough that we can see each other, hear each other, and replicate that DNA, right? Of like what you and Cliff had at the start.
Yes, yes.
Right? And that fifth one that you just elaborated on is we empower the people who are already feeling seen. They already feel like they belong. They already feel ready to offer their strength and assets to the benefit of the community.
Absolutely. Well summarized. That's it. We should put it in our website.
That should have been the entire thing.
That's it. That's it. We're done.
Actually, this is why we're here, so that you can help summarize our very messy thoughts.
You get a free consultancy thrown in. No, but it's like I mean the ordinary dad to me is like it's a really interesting case study and of like ground up groups that are succeeding in Singapore without much help or assistance. But that's because there's already some good ingredients going down there, which maybe, when you're in it, you don't really understand what you're doing.
No.
But like my bet is if we went to some other ground up groups who are also sizable like yours, I've heard of ground up groups which are like 200, 300 people.
Wow.
But they're all bound around different things. Like maybe it could be like, we are all retirees who are lonely and have no one to travel with, or we, so it's all very specific niche interest, but similar in pattern that there is no leader, founder, no one's like exchanging any money in this. It's like everyone just wants to be part of this, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you look at your current community, right? If there was a day where the original group, right, the OG group, the 6 of you who met in Burger King kind of thing, had to go off for some reason, do you believe your community would still keep going without you?
I would like to say to that, that if everything we've been discussing so far holds true, then the community should, in theory, continue to thrive without the 6 of us or the X number of us who were there maybe from the beginning, because the DNA has been baked into the community so seamlessly, almost intrinsically. You know, it's not even articulated the way we've been articulating so far.
Yeah.
That you just automatically step in and say, oh, well, you know, I can contribute this now because you have been with the community for a while. First, new members, maybe not, but for those who've been around with us for the time that they have been a year or more, they will, I like to believe they will step in, because it's never about just any one single one of us. I mean, I told Joe and a few of us too that if ever it looks that way, or we start to have some kind of a intentional status or structure or a position in this community that we say that you need to hear me, then I think we have missed or we've forgotten how we began.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if Cliff was with us here, he would agree that it's not just about one of us, it's about all of us. And that all of us doesn't have to look the same year after year after year.
Yeah.
And that should be the power of it. And yeah, and then who is to say that maybe after this podcast, the entire community collapses? Anything can happen, right? And if you try to, you know, revive a dead horse, if it's already on its last breath, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Because part of an organic ecosystem is that there are these cycles you go through, right?
Yeah.
And we should, I was saying we should be prepared that there could be a time that comes. And if it is, actually, it probably further affirms what we are meant to be. We are meant to be organic. We're meant to be very natural, not forced upon. Yeah, of course, if it really disappears tomorrow, it's a pity, yes, of course. We'll feel some grief, I think. Some will feel more than others, but we must never forget that we are not beholden on upholding it. Like, you know, a lot of things, after all, they get institutionalized.
Yeah.
And then you're almost like servicing the institution rather than the motivation, what it began with, the genesis of it. If you forget that, and then you start to service the building or the institution, then actually you should have already closed down long ago.
Yeah.
I have full confidence that even if the ordinary dad is no more tomorrow, the friendships will remain. We just don't call it the ordinary dad.
Yep.
Yeah. People will continue meeting with one another.
Yeah.
It might not be monthly. It might be once in every 2 months, but that's fine as well. It speaks to, again, the very organic nature, the living, breathing nature of who we are as human beings.
Yeah. So based on your experience of being such a key part of the story of this ground up movement, you know, called Ordinary Dad, and also as you reflect of your other experiences of other groups that you may have been a part of, formal or informal, right? Personal or professional kind of groups. You know, you must have been part of some groups that just kind of fell apart after a while, right? They didn't have this amazing traction of going from like 2 to 12 to 24, you know, to 80. What do you think, like based on your own experience, is the reason why some groups just fall apart? Yeah, after a while.
When you don't intentionally connect on a fairly regular basis, then it could also fall apart. And in fact, just ordinary daily friendships need to be nurtured. You often hear people say, oh, you know, it's okay. I haven't seen that friend of mine from secondary school in like 3 decades. When we come together, we just happily chit-chat and such. So we never lost time. But you know what? If you actually deep dive into that a little bit more, you realize that actually you have, because when you first meet after 30 years, it's like, yes, you could pick up where you left off and talk, right? But try sustaining that for the next 2 or 3 meetings and you start to quickly run out of conversations if there was not at the same time pit stops along the way of your life where you stayed connected. Those have a better chance of a longer longevity of sustaining than just that, oh, hi, I haven't seen you, let's catch up over at the alumni gathering, and then you think that there's friendship there. it may seem to be that way. So I think groups will fall apart if there is no intentionality to spend time to keep the conversations going.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, of course, with constraint of time, there's only so many hours in a day. You need to kind of be very selective in the way how you spend it. So if any friends of mine listening now, I say I've not talked to you, I guess it's because maybe it just wasn't meant to be. And I think you're okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's how it would be. Yeah.
To me, it's just as simple as seasons change, you know. Seasons change and needs change.
Yeah.
And so different groups that I was connected with previously, you know, may not be the group that I connect with in this season of mine. And again, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of even informal groups that I have in university, and all of us have very different needs now, you know, different seasons, and we do connect once in a while, just check in on one another. But you know, I mean, like you said, it's not like a very deep dive kind of connection.
Right.
Yeah. It's nice to like meet up and like, hey, how are you? But I think for us as this particular ground up movement, really, I think the seasons that we are in is there's a nice confluence, among different dads, and therefore, you know, that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to start to bring this conversation to a close. You touched on it, so I'm going to ask you a few questions on this. Would your group want to stay at the grassroots level that you're at right now? Say someone like knocked on your doors and said like, hey, I love what you are doing. Would you want to partner our organization or partner our group? Here's some funds, all that kind of stuff. If let's say that opportunity actually happened, would you feel, we should explore that? Or do you feel that could be the kiss of death for what's the best part about our group? Or would you say like, well, there's a couple of questions we want to ask or we want to explore of each other before we say yes or no? Yeah.
Interesting that you asked this because we are starting to receive these kinds of
it's
requests.
Very natural.
Very natural, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So we are. And so also therefore, very naturally, we are kind of like taking it one day at a time.
Yeah.
We don't have a 5-year, 10-year strategy for dealing with this, but we deal with it the way our very organized or our very ground up grassroots is very organically. We were just like, okay, so this has come in as a request. So among the few of us who administer, we will have a little closed door, little chit chat with each other, say, what do you think about this? And so we don't have a SOP at the moment.
Yeah.
We might, I suppose, if more comes along and we need to kind of scale it up or scale it down depending.
Yeah.
But we are not close to it as long as, I suppose, it doesn't detract from what we believe the season that we're still in is what it is, which is to give fathers like ourselves a place, a safe space to, because in some sense, right, you can't be a community in silos also. You cannot be a community in of itself.
Yeah.
You are in a community as part of a larger community out there for whatever that looks like. And because of that very nature, right, you're going to have people knock on your doors. Because we ourselves could be knocking on other doors too. And so as long as we recognize there's this symbiosis, right, we need to always be prepared to say that, okay, let's explore. We don't say no unless it's a very clear no lah. Like you want me to support a cause that's so far outside of our area of expertise that we can not add value to, then we won't. But if there is some kind of opportunity, we're always willing to listen. But it can't be our own one person's decision, obviously. It have to be a collective decision on how to move forward.
Yeah. Well, then I think the last question I would have for you before we go into like sort of a closing reflection is, what do you think a good death looks like for your group? Because you mentioned that at some point the group might end.
Wow.
You know, like if it had to end, you're like, what does a good death look like for our group? And what would be a ugly death for your group? Like this would kill us. I really don't want to go there. That's like a bad case scenario.
I think a good death for us would be maybe that whole upkeep of the 80, or I mean if it goes to 100, begins to just lose its value or its meaning. People just naturally walk away, or they start to disappear, and suddenly you see the number of text messages drop by half and so on. But that's at that level. But then in the small little organic, almost satellite groups, we are hearing stories coming out of people who are just sharing lives, and fathers who are drawing close, forging new friendships in this season that might never have happened if they didn't meet up with these fathers in this community that we have kind of made possible, And so if that happens, that's a good death, because friendships are still being cemented. Conversations and relationships are still being birthed and developed and honed, and lives are changed. And most importantly, the parenting, the children, they're the ones getting the benefit of all this collective wisdom that maybe started with the big group of the ordinary dad, but now has distilled down to the smaller groups, but intimate, tightly knitted conversations. To me, that's a great death, man. Yes, we can delete our website. We can forget about the website chat group, close it all off. All the little subgroup, interest group communities that we built along the way this past few months. That's fine. Of course, a bad death if we all turn on each other and kill each other. That would be a very bad death.
But bring in the Lord of the Flies,
Lord of the Flies, oh my gosh, okay, yes.
But say it doesn't go into that savage thing. What would be a death a death of the group that would actually make you feel deeply grieved?
Oh,
yeah,
now
really
that you
sad.
put it that way, I think a bad death would be when people outside of us, the community, start to want to have a piece of our narrative, start to want to take our narrative and then begin to spin it for their own agenda and their own motives, which may be altruistic from their point of view, but it may circumvent what our identity is and rob us of it, or dilute what we are, or try to even go as far as stealing our narratives, or trying to make us advocate for causes that we never really started wanting to do. And we see examples of those. There are those out there where their messages get co-opted for some other purposes that it was never meant to, and it gets out of hand. I mean, media as a whole is often a culprit in the sense that whatever is sensational, whatever is the trending topic of the day, or whether is a meme that goes out, right, gets the hearing for the day, right? But it leaves a lot of wreckage in its wake. And we don't want to be there. If that happens to us, then that will be a horrible, tragic death. That will be the day we lose our very identity, our very soul. I pray that doesn't happen. That would be a terrible death.
Let me start with a terrible death first. What's that definition for me?
Yes.
I think for me it's if the ending of this group causes more division, or is caused by division instead of a certain unity, which is why it was started in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think just to build on what you mentioned about the media spinning certain narratives, I think we're well aware that a lot of us, when we live our day-to-day as stay-home dads, a lot of people are very curious about what we do. It's not a very natural form in the society. When we take these media requests, sometimes we have to be very careful. So, because in fact, we just kind of like rejected a few.
Yes.
Because we didn't want to create a us-them kind of narrative.
Yeah.
Where, we are stay-home dads. You guys are not stay-home dads. Because that to us also creates a certain division, even though it's not amongst us.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you feel like, why are we encouraging our own community to feel superior?
Yeah.
When actually we're ordinary. And we are just dads. And in fact, I think we had something that we're discussing. Like, actually, even though we are stay-home dads, first and foremost, we are dads.
Yeah.
We just happen to be stay-home. And I think if we start to suddenly have this exclusivity around us as well, when actually the only reason why we are all in the same situation is because we wanted to do better for our kids in our own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what every dad wants. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
what's a good death? I guess for me, it's if it evolves into another form of life.
Yeah.
And that can look in different, and that can look different, that can look differently in different ways.
Yeah.
So, like one you mentioned, maybe it forms into really small different fractions and the bigger group has no more need anymore.
Yeah.
Then let's not call ourselves the ordinary dads. Everyone's just having their own relationships.
Yeah.
Or it has become such a space where stay-home dads don't really need another group, like a specific group to like, oh, we are all stay-home dads, let's talk about it. Because it's just so normal now. It's like, oh, okay, lor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's just, I wouldn't even say accepted. It's just what it is, lah. It's just an everyday thing.
Yeah.
So then that's like, then why do we still need to like create that circle,
Yeah.
Because nobody needs that anymore. Then let's just continue with life. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wow. That's good, Joe.
Yeah.
You're spot on.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's close this podcast with some simple fill in the blanks, right? To just
Not
like
very simple. I've seen the question, by the way.
Listeners, don't be deceived.
Simple looking, but it captures so much like wonderful, complex learnings, right? Yeah, for both of you, you can reply as individuals. You don't have to represent ordinary dad in this, right? But for you, what do you now believe about this, right? If you want to change something in Singapore, you have to be fill in the blank.
I mean, it's kind of like that old song by Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror, right? You start with yourself and you start to be the change that you want to see. And as you do that, I believe invariably it will move you, just the natural progression of it. It will move you beyond yourself to start to maybe speak up in that little corner of the world that you occupy. And then hopefully that idea, if it's accepted, is recognized for what it is, there's value in it, it would then organically spread even beyond you. And I guess also as a result of my age too, I'm at a point in my life where I realize that more than anything else, right, I want the remainder of my life to reflect that I have thought it through and I have purpose and the meaning that I want to have seen happening. Whether it's of my own doing or whether it's because something happened that propelled me into it, but I want to palpate the meaning of it out of it than just going through the motions. And when everyone in society can operate from that, what a change we will see, because then you are really speaking into who you are and letting that be shared to the world, because who knows, someone else might need to hear exactly what it is you are advocating for, you are believing in, and then you can hold hands together and journey this life together. So for me, if you want to see a change, you start with yourself, and hopefully that will attract others of a like mind, and then you just spill over effect, ripple effects.
For me, it would be to focus on our similarities, but not deny our differences.
Wow, good one there.
Yeah, because I think actually we're all connected in very different ways. Yeah.
Sometimes disconnected also.
And disconnected as well, because we are all unique individuals. Yeah. Our lived experiences are very different.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to look at our own bubble, I guess,
Yeah.
So like, this is what I'm facing, this is what I'm doing. But I guess the ordinary dad was also formed because there was that similarity which we were all having with one another, our lived experience. But more and more, I'm also realizing that there are more differences within the ordinary dad compared to that first shared experience.
Yeah.
But the moment where every individual, start to appreciate those differences, there's so much synergy. I mean, going back to the whole Peter Block discussion that we had earlier about asset-based community, it's recognizing that you are different in this asset, you're different in that skill, you're different in that talent, but we're all bringing something to the table. Yeah. And I think that's where change happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. We find a connection, but we are able to also use our differences to build something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And for both of you, like when you look at how people approach changing things, what is a way that you have seen that actually causes more brokenness and fragmentation? And what is a way that actually causes more wholeness, more wholesomeness? Yeah.
Wow.
What have you realized?
I think the fragmentation thing usually happens when there are individuals who are too close-minded. It's my way or the highway. This is the only reality that I see. Not to deny that person's reality, but because you're so fixated on what you feel is supposed to be the way, you don't give chance to other opportunities and alternatives of seeing the same scenario in the same situation. It's that meme, right? Like you're sitting there, I'm sitting here, you see a 6, I see a 9. Yeah. And as a result of that, the fragmentation becomes stronger. Yeah. And I guess in the same vein, to your next question about what helps to create the whole, is if I can connect and like, can I try and see things from your perspective? And sometimes it's just one step. It's one step next to you. And it's like, oh, this is what you see. Yeah. Let me show you what I see. Come, you take another step. Yeah. And it might be sounds simple, but I'm sure it's not as simple as that.
It's very practical, doable, but not many people do it. Yeah. Wonderful advice.
I mean, I take the cue from a book that I read that was just published in 2023 by this New York Times columnist called David Brooks. And he wrote this great book called How to Know a Person. And he gave a lot of very practical advice that, wow, it's just amazing, you know. I think that to answer your question, it's just like David says, listening has to be a very intentional skill we need to develop if we are going to be more united as a society than fragmented. Because despite the commonsensicalness of it, if there's such a word, listening is actually a very difficult skill to master.
Yeah.
And many people think they have mastered it, but chances are they actually haven't. And I, as my part-time work as an adjunct communications lecturer, can tell you that I'm actually not very good at it. In many ways, I am still learning the craft of listening, because one of the things I realized is that listening needs to, like David said in his book, it needs to be an on-off switch, not a dimmer. So if you think of a room where lights can be dimmed to a certain degree of brightness and darkness, right? A lot of times when we're listening, we are probably adjusting our listening. We appear to be listening, but we're actually formulating our answers even before the other person is finished sharing that question or the story. We already have the answer prepared because we feel that we need to immediately jump in as soon as there's a pause. And that's how a lot of conversations tend to happen, especially in fast-paced societies like Singapore.
Yeah.
But the reality is that listening should be an on-off switch. If you flick the switch on listening, that's the only thing in that space you should be doing. Because oftentimes when you do that, your entire body is involved in it, your mind is involved in it.
Yeah.
You will begin to look beyond just the words to think deeper to what's the motivation, or what has this person maybe had for breakfast today or been experiencing the past week that led the person to say this. And the minute I break it down for you like that, you realize, or David broke it down for me like that, is that, wow, listening is exhausting, but at the same time, if you invest in it, right, it is rewarding. And it is what keeps us in a place of humility to recognize that we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And we should just be grateful that we're in a space where somebody can feel enough vulnerability to share this with you. And you should be grateful and own that and treasure it and listen, really, really listen. If we have more people like that, and I'm still on the road to being there, I think I'm a long way off, I think society as a whole will not be as fragmented as it feels like on many days now. I mean, with everything that's going on in the world around us today, right? This is the world we live in because people don't want to listen. And they want to just pick the easy way out. But listening is hard work. And I suppose maybe this says to the larger experience of the human race that we're lazy. We don't want to work so hard. But yet, if we are prepared to put in the hard work now, we're going to reap dividends for a long time to come. But that's a choice we need to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Josiah, Kelvin, thank you very much
so
for this
much.
conversation.
Thank you.
What I'm getting out from it is, I think it's a picture of just all of you in the administrative circle of the Ordinary Dad who are like gardeners setting up the conditions
Oh, wow.
of the
Nice.
garden for people to
Right,
grow
right.
and learn and flourish.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think
Nice
there's a lot of richness that you have sown into the
Thank
soil.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for recognizing that.
Our Swiss Army knife is shovel, gardening.
Yeah, man.
Like,
trimming our
cutting stuff,
bonsai.
trimming.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So if
love
someone wants to reach out to the Ordinary Dad for anything, what's the best way for them to contact you?
They can go to our website at www.theordinarydad.org, and there is an option for them to contact us by dropping in their email address. I think that's the best way to get to us. But we are also on Instagram and Facebook, so they can always just look for us there using our handle, which is The Ordinary Dad. Yeah, and they'll find us.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.